mayo, radical conversations, and smelling books. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our keynote speaker this morning, Misbah Awan.
Okay, so as I was introduced, my name is Misbah Awan, and I'm just going to dive right into the piece because I have a lot of things to say. So, can you guys hear me over there? Yeah? All right. Okay, so my piece is called Too Busy Writing History to Read It, and you'll see by the end of my speech why I've named it that. I'm impulsive, lively, and impatient. Throughout most of my life, I have been tripping over the most ordinary things to the most ridiculous, over-the-top things. There is no chill for me. I am anxious with the world quick. Oftentimes, I am bored or my priorities are elsewhere. This makes me wonder more about my surroundings and who I am. I think as an activist, this is an especially significant journey. As a brown girl, I will always have guilt tied to every decision I make for my own betterment. This is because I am raised to be an obedient daughter and to be a compliant wife. My value is determined by how well I follow instructions. There is no room for self-love. My parents would call this selfishness. You come into this world to serve others, but never yourself. That is the way it goes in the common brown household. I'm lucky enough to not get the shorter end of the stick, but that does not make my problems any less smaller or totally invisible. I would like to say this. I'm 17 years old, and while that may not seem like a lot of years on a scale, I do feel wise, and I do feel adequate enough to be there for myself and pick myself up, but my parents are not allowing me to fully fulfill my goals. I've proven to be a very responsible, self-aware individual. I have numerous successes, and I think I deserve many more, as do you all. My parents, they're not totally conservative. My father, he's a humble and respectable man. He has a big heart, an even bigger potty mouth, and a tendency to give a lot more than he should. Every time he tries scolding us, he chokes on it, and it makes all of us kids real giddy. My mother is a woman of youthful taste and has a playful personality. She's often very practical, something I look up to, and overprotective as mothers tend to be. It is clear to almost all my friends that I am the first child, the first baby of the house, as she still treats me like one. They are good people, but the views are backwards. They are transphobic, homophobic, racist, and sexist, and usually they do this behind closed doors, which I think is the worst way. General ridiculousness and irrationality is hugely present in my home, and it is an act of violence towards my mental health. I'm currently having to deal with my mom hating on my programs for weak reasons like they're too far away and it's a waste of time, or they're not Muslim organizations. She wants me within a 1-mile radius of her at all times, but it's really strange because she'll let me go out of state or overseas. She's unforgiving about standardized test scores. She calls my calling out on her sexism jealousy towards my brother. All I know is that it's a never-ending struggle for an anchor to validate my existence and comfort me, so I can only conclude this. I am a South Asian diasporan child. Diaspora is a condition of fragmentation, not only of place but of time. I will always be moving, always be wandering. It's the absence of something and the yearning to be whole. But do I fall obediently to the feet of those who question me or make me question my existence? No. Even in those moments when I am not, my presence as an unapologetic Muslim woman of color walking into the room is so loud and unyielding, as it should be. I am heavily involved with GAP. It stands for Global Action Project. It's filmmaking through the lens of a camera. Activism through the lens of a camera. And I'm also involved with DRUM, which is a grassroots organization where I started my transition from a youth leader to a community organizer. At DRUM, I perform my spoken word, which I, to this day, believe is a way of activism because it's a way of cultivating indifference while still being invested in your surroundings. It removes you from the haters and allows you to pick at what's most relevant to you while being aware of perception. On top of that, spoken word has existed way before the written word. Take, for example, Shakespeare. I realized that it wasn't a diction, but an observation. There's a reason why they spoke like that. An accent on every word, there's emotion behind every word, and a wantingness to communicate something. This is why I think performing spoken word was incredibly important that day. I pushed forward with my passion, despite the fact that my own father tried censoring me in fear of people talking. But I have to have my voice heard. If I'm not bringing my advocacy outside of my social justice circles and into my home and outside events, am I truly an advocate for what I do? Usually when my parents are being sexist and evidently give my brother better treatment over me, and I don't speak up even when I absolutely can and have an opening, am I truly close to what I do? How heavy is my passion? It really sucks that he has more privileges inherently, but you can't allow them to reduce your feelings to zero by accusing you of being jealous, right? So the reason why I'm so passionate and interested in social justice is because it isn't a field of interest to me. It isn't just another dimension. It isn't something I can leave and come back to. It seeps into every aspect of my life. I was thinking about this the other day, and I thought politics was created in order for the elite members of society to justify their reasoning for what they do. And it's our job to reverse that. Being political isn't just about politics. It's an investment in mankind's unalienable and God-given, if you will, rights. I believe that everyday struggles of a Muslim woman of color and understand intersectionality. I love talking to people. I want harmony while I'm not a pacifist. I'm not just gonna stop because the world's a cruel place and I should just get used to it. I'm not one to accept cruelty and brutality and unhappiness as the norm because it enables me to be complacent. It's important to fight tooth and nail in a battle. The goal should be achieved by any means necessary. There are roadblocks, of course. Oftentimes people, for example my friends, they say I don't do fun stuff or I can't take a joke. But I realize that I don't want to laugh at their homophobic or transphobic or sexist or even racist jokes. You know, through my advocacy, I've learned to laugh at an egg. And I think by doing that, by being able to laugh at an egg, it's a sort of art. I've learned value. Now I'm learning how to attain the ability to sit back, observe, and absorb. I want you all to know first what isn't activism. There's activism and then there's false activism. You are not a fellow comrade or an activist if you care about one social matter above all other social matters without realizing they are and can be intertwined. And it's false to pretend to be socially aware with harmful or immature views. Also, you shouldn't say, oh, I wish people cared, for example, more about Syria rather than Zayn Malik leaving One Direction. Because it's backward. You're excusing others of not having the emotional ability to care more about one thing at a time when a person can absolutely do that. This is what is called a shaming mechanism, and it's used by people to belittle others and their passions. I strongly discourage this. Bringing this back to the topic of gender equity, why should you care? But I like to answer it as, why shouldn't you? I know this doesn't necessarily answer the question in the most standard way, but I think it's a good rhetoric. It's important to be able to answer it in a way that makes a person think. So that would be my short answer. But to be honest, I'm always asked this from my fellow peers, and they don't understand it. They use their mothers or their aunts or someone they know who is a woman as a model citizen, leading themselves to believe the idea of low wages for women, especially women of color versus white women, doesn't exist, and feminism is stupid. This is a damaging mentality to have. I care about gender equity because what we are physically should not determine what we receive spiritually or emotionally. Despite this, I am here. I want you all to know, I want you all to learn to be unapologetically who you are. Stop saying sorry. Don't allow your elders to tell you how to properly sit. Not everybody is going to be like you because not everybody has taste. Value is learned. Most importantly, be angry sometimes, fight. My dad has told me a thing or two in his accented English, but I remember this one most of all. He said, "Those who clap for you are not always in your favor." This resonates with me heavily because it has allowed me to prioritize myself. I learned to stop minimizing and discounting my own feelings. I have every right to feel the way I do, even though it is not logical. You have to let go of what you've been told you should or shouldn't feel. You have to drown out the voices of people who try to shame you into silence. I believe that we are important and we matter. We are all becoming, all wanting to grow, so I leave you with a question. When we come out of this symposium, will we be ready to start building our own legacies? Like I said in the beginning of my essay, my title is called Too Busy Writing History to Read It, and I think this is where our sense of selves comes in. There are external, uncontrollable forces out there, but it's your drive and your fire that'll move you through the mess. And I hope that it is very evident in my stories. Thank you.